The creator of the highly acclaimed New York Times 1619 Special Project visits Howard University.
Fresh food markets are providing new options for marginalized communities around the district.
And as the Earth's temperatures continue to rise, so has the activism surrounding climate change. NewsVision starts now.
From the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C., this is NewsVision, a newscast written, reported, and produced by capstone journalists in the Department of Media, Journalism, and Film.
Good afternoon, I'm Kaprielle Trenard.
And I'm Taylor
Kinda
Thibodaux.
Makes me a bit
Welcome
sad.
to NewsVision, the capstone class for broadcast journalism students at the Mecca of Higher Education, Howard University.
In this broadcast, we will tackle issues that matter in your community, from politics to home ownership or the lack thereof.
We'll also introduce our newest segment, HU Gets Real.
But we begin with an issue that's becoming all too real and all too common within our communities: mass shootings. This year alone, there have been more than 280 mass shootings. Some schools across the nation have gone to new lengths to ensure their students' safety during the school day. They have gone from fire drills to active shooter drills. But are they causing more harm than good? I went to a nearby elementary school to find out.
It kind of makes me a bit sad that we even live in a time where this has become the norm.
Active shooter threats. That's the new normal Assistant Principal Sherelle Stagg is talking about. There have been 312 mass shootings this year alone, according to the Gun Violence Archive. It's become more common that now schools are required to host evacuation drills for students as young as 5 to protect themselves in school from outside intruders. But are these drills doing more harm than good? Sherelle Stagg, Assistant Principal of Greenbelt Elementary, describes an encounter she had with a kindergarten student after a drill.
I kept thinking about the picture of that little 5-year-old kind of jumping and being startled by us entering the room. The lights are off, and you've heard on the intercom that this is a lockdown drill.
Now, according to Greenbelt Elementary, kindergartners specifically are taught in the event of a lockdown drill to remain silent, drop what they're doing, and huddle together to make their way to this storage closet in hopes the intruder does not believe that they're in the classroom. Sophia Dennis, founder of Essence Girls United, believes there could be other ways to help children through the traumas of shooter drills.
And we're looking at ways in which we can resolve situations after they happen, as opposed to preventing situations. So we need to put more money into the schools so that we can have more conversations with kids at schools to prevent these things from happening.
The thought that we're doing that now with children as young as 5 and 6 years old, I definitely see the necessity, but it does make me sad that we've even come to such a point in our world.
Just last year, a D.C. elementary school took a plan of action and closed their southeast campus after police say a shooter fired 40 rounds right outside their playground. Parents, it's important to pay attention because your child's school may be the next to implement active shooter drills into their curriculum.
Climate change is another major issue of our time. According to the United Nations, we are at a defining moment. And as the conversation around it keeps rising, so is the activism. So much so that this past September, youth all over the world took to the streets to organize the largest mass mobilization on the topic, including here in the nation's capital, where students participated in the protest with hopes to shut down D.C. I went down to Capitol Hill for the protest. While talks about climate change have risen since the 45th president and his administration's refusal to sign the Paris Climate Agreement in 2015, protesters across the country took to the streets to fight the battle against this environmental injustice. But this time, a different set of citizens were leading the pack.
I just don't understand what else needs to happen for people to realize that climate change is real and climate change is a big issue, and there is going to be no future for anybody if we don't do something.
Greta Thunberg, 16-year-old Swedish climate activist, encouraged youth in over 150 countries to walk out of school and shut down their cities to bring awareness to America's most pressing threat, according to Bloomberg.com. On September 20th, here in Washington, D.C., Generation Zers led the way out of their classrooms and onto Capitol Hill to make sure their climate change concerns were being heard by lawmakers. With social media as their outlet, hashtag #ShutDownDC spread throughout the nation's capital.
Some of the adults, they just just like neglect it because they're not going to be alive, so they're not going to have this problem like other generations and more generations to come. So it's important for us to come out.
Now, while this protest was mainly led by youth, adults still found it important to come speak up about this environmental injustice.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more important than to work together towards saving the planet from climate change.
Black and Indigenous communities will be hit the hardest, the worst, and the longest by climate catastrophe.
Participants of the protest are now looking forward to the 45th administration's lawmaking decisions regarding environmental reform in America. Just a few days after this protest, the students marched again during the morning rush hour to create a block in traffic, and they succeeded.
Oh, I'm sure DC commuters weren't too happy about that one.
Yep, and that was their point.
There's been a shortage of fresh food markets in most urban and marginalized areas in the U.S. and here in the nation's capital.
Right here in Southeast DC, community members have made it their business to make sure fresh produce and fruits are available to their neighbors.
Chelsi Hall has the story.
Washington, D.C. is a great place to live. However, in areas of lower income, food deserts have become more common. Residents turn to small businesses like 3-Part Harmony Farm in order to have access to fresh produce.
Well, I started 3-Part Harmony Farm in 2011. I had been working at an organic farm in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, but as a DC resident since 1999, it was really important to me to bring healthy food to our city, to our community. So the whole idea from the beginning has always just been to grow healthy vegetables for the people in my household and on my block, and then in my community and throughout the entire city.
I just didn't understand that there wasn't fresh food available for everybody where everybody lives.
In 2011, Taylor teamed up with local law students and city council members to get DC's Farm Bill passed. The bill enforces food security and gives people a chance to buy plots of land to start their own farms.
So I'm a local of DC, Southeast, 27 years, and I've experienced a lot of change throughout the community in terms of access to local produce, access to produce that is organic and free from pesticides and harmful chemicals, but also just more along the lines of the same culture and community that the people who are consuming the food can expect from the people who grow the food.
From Gail's passion and hard work came the fruits and produce of her labor, providing residents in D.C. with access to a local farm and a healthier lifestyle. In Washington, D.C., with NewsVision, I'm Chelsi Hall.
In 2015, Gail Taylor was featured as one of 50 under 50 innovative leaders transforming Metro DC's food system. She's a perfect example to show how communities everywhere are coming together to make sure they have the nutritious produce their health deserves.
Now, on college campuses, students aren't necessarily eating the healthiest food options. Ketchup may be a vegetable and oodles of noodles a main course. In fact, a study in the journal Preventive Medicine says 95% of college students are not eating the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables. But things are changing. Here at Howard University, a farmer's market was set up on the main yard to attract students to purchase something other than what's in their cafeterias and food courts. Students searched through a variety of fresh fruits and veggies and were even provided with information about the items they were picking up by the school's food servicing company, Sodexo.
With students developing independent health habits while in college, this is a perfect opportunity to give them the tools that they need so when they graduate from school that they can live a life that's pretty easy, so that the healthiest choice will be the easiest choice.
Sodexo employees and school administrators remain hopeful that they will continue to see farmers markets pop up more frequently on the yard.
Being located right here in the nation's capital, the government news is our local news. Coming up next, election 2020 is just 1 year away. Who are the top candidates for Generation Z?
And the nation says goodbye to a leader who left a momentous legacy. Howard University remembers alumnus Congressman Elijah Cummings next.
Here at NewsVision, we take your right to know seriously.
Rain or shine, NewsVision is dedicated to getting you the truth from the nation's capital.
Black families have had a hard time recovering.
And we're looking at...
Don't understand what else needs to happen for people to realize that climate change is real.
From behind the scenes to on the screen, NewsVision is there to deliver you with some of the toughest topics.
Spending hours and hours editing to give you the best content.
And this is NewsVision.
As the presidential race continues, citizens all across America are tuned in daily during this highly anticipated election season.
Students on Howard University's campus are taking a look at what policies will benefit them and who may be the best fit for the presidency.
Electing someone just to go against Trump instead of because of their values, you know?
One, people not coming out to vote, and two, people not being informed of who the candidates are.
And while some are worrying about Trump's re-election, others don't think that it would be the worst thing in the world.
I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world, but I think right now with the whole things that are happening with certain people like white supremacists and all that stuff, I feel like they're getting, I know that Trump is not directly condoning it, but because of his administration, I feel like they're getting bold.
Turnout amongst college student voters has doubled within the last 4 years. And one of their biggest concerns being student loan debt. And that's just what Paul Jackson, information system major, says he's concerned about.
So as of right now, I'm leaning more so towards voting for Elizabeth Warren because she has a plan to cancel student loan debt. So that's probably why she's gonna get my vote.
Another student weighs in on who his favorite candidate might be.
I really like Kamala Harris, even though I'm torn between some candidates, because I feel like she's really for the people and she can create a country where everybody can operate and function living.
As you can see, the 2020 presidential elections are a very crucial decision for the country. President Donald Trump has been under much scrutiny surrounding his impending impeachment over his reported handling of money for Ukraine in exchange for information on his Democratic rival Joe Biden. Last month, the president took to Twitter to compare his impeachment inquiry to a lynching, calling all Republicans to aid him in his so-called time of distress. That comment brought this reaction by one of Howard University students.
And I think that word sums up what his behavior has been demonstrating, being culturally insensitive to other individuals who do not look like him.
A new CNN SSRS poll shows that 50% of Americans believe Trump should be impeached and removed from office. 43% say he would not be.
As tensions surrounding Trump's presidency continues to build, we remember a leader who was a prominent voice in Trump's impeachment inquiry. U.S. Representative Elijah Cummings passed away on October 17th. Here at his alma mater, students and faculty mourned a valued alumnus. The recent passing of Congressman Elijah E. Cummings has left those he's impacted with memories detailing the remarkable legacy he had on the world. As a representative for Maryland's 7th Congressional District, a Howard University alumnus, and an honorary member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, he has demonstrated his dedication towards civil rights and social reform. These are just a few examples of the spaces where he displayed his leadership and noble spirit.
He was around when my parents were my age, so they know him very well. He's been in my church. He had events. He does a lot of donations and just giving back to the community. But not only that, he took it all the way up to Congress, which is something big for us because we underfunded and underrepresented.
We had occasions to work directly with Congressman Cummings, the man that you see on television, the ethical, kind, compassionate, and insightful leader that you would hear every year at Rankin Chapel or see on MSNBC or CNN was the man that we worked with on the Hill.
He became an honorary member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated in 2015. Here on the campus of Howard University, the Alpha chapter of the fraternity acknowledges the imprint he has left on their organization.
I think Elijah Cummings has left a profound legacy on Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. He's such an amazing pillar, and when you lose a pillar like this in our society, we're now looking to the next leaders and the next generation to pick up that mantle. And he honestly inspires us all to keep forging forward and to uphold our motto of culture for service and service for humanity.
While Congressman Elijah Cummings has left an impact on his community, his colleagues, and his fraternity, many are left wondering who is going to be the next leader to follow in his footsteps.
I don't know how the void that he leaves is going to be filled, and I'm very hopeful that when it's filled, is filled by another son or daughter of Howard University.
Representative Cummings was 68. The university also held a special recognition tribute honoring the late congressman on November 25th. The Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Annual Legislative Conference is held annually in Washington, D.C. This year, thousands of people gathered to address issues on public policy and issues faced in the global Black community.
This year, one of the topics discussed was the documentary Push Out, a film detailing the decriminalization of Black girls. NewsVision's Chelsi Hall reports.
Each year, thousands of people gather at the Congressional Black Caucus Legislative Conference to discuss a number of topics. This year, many attended the premiere and panel discussion of Monique Morris's Push Out, a documentary about the decriminalization of Black girls. Among some of the panelists was U.S. Representative Ayanna Presley, who inspired the audience with her support of the message behind the film.
Our girls are over-policed, underprotected, and too often pushed out of school and onto a pathway to the criminal legal system.
Most people in the audience really resonated with the message and the vision behind the documentary. In the United States, Black girls are 6 times more likely to get an out-of-school suspension than their white counterparts.
The film is intended to be a tool. So it's not the kind of film that we hope people will watch once and say, I saw a film, and there's that. It's really an opportunity to have conversations or to use it as an organizing tool to have conversations about what's happening at the local level.
Coming up next, award-winning journalist Nicole Hannah-Jones visits the illustrious Howard University for discussion of her 1619 project.
I feel like I'm so out of touch with my campus that I really don't know what's going on anymore.
How? You just gotta look around, open your eyes, use NewsVision. This may serve as a precursor. Nearby HBCU.
Scrolling through social media. Whoa, what was that?
That was NewsVision. They keep you updated on the latest and most current news happening on the campus of Howard University and our community.
Wow.
This year marks the 400th anniversary of enslaved Africans arriving on the shores of America.
In remembrance, award-winning journalist Nicole Hannah-Jones pioneered her New York Times Special Edition 1619 project.
NewsVision's Khary Armster had a chance to speak extensively with Hannah-Jones, and he's with us now.
Thank you very much, Kaprielle. Nicole Hannah-Jones covers civil rights and racial injustice. Her critically acclaimed 1619 project became a real passion project, which she discussed at a sellout event at Howard University. Before the evening discussion, I had an opportunity to speak with Ms. Hannah-Jones about what went into making this project and how she decided to connect the effects of slavery to our modern life.
When I conceived of the project, I knew that I wanted it to be about modern American life. So as we were deciding what stories were going to be in there, we were starting with the present, not the past. So we were saying what things about modern American life that impact almost all Americans can be traced back to slavery. And we came up with a list from there. I really wanted this project to answer that question that Black people get all the time, which is slavery ended 150 years ago, why don't you get over it? And I wanted to show that our country has not gotten over it and that it is impacting every American, whether you're white, Black, immigrant, Native American, that the legacy of slavery impacts us all and that it is alive today. So it wasn't about looking at the past and going forward, it was looking at the present and going backwards.
What about this series is really resonating with people?
I think there are a couple of things. One, the story that we're telling is a story that really reframes the way that we have been taught, not just about American history, but about the role that Black Americans have played and the role of slavery as foundational really to our culture, our politics, and our society. And this is just a history that most Americans, no matter what their race, have not really learned. The other thing is our language, I think, is very unflinching. I think people appreciate that we weren't holding anything back. We were not afraid with the language. And I think the other thing is The kind of conceit of the magazine is that this actually is not a history. The magazine is saying that you can look all across a modern American life and things that you think have nothing to do with race or slavery, such as traffic patterns or why we consume so much sugar or why we don't have universal health care, that you can look across all of these aspects of modern American life and we could trace them back to slavery. So I think that reframing for people has been very powerful.
You said that as a journalist you can remain objective. You cannot remain objective, but you can remain like balanced and fair. Yes. And so with the topic that was so powerful and endearing to your heart as the 1619 project was, how were you able to remain focused and balanced and fair on?
I mean, it's the rigor of the scholarship. So you can disagree with the framing, but you can't disagree with the facts, right? And that's really what was important to me is we had a panel of scholars who helped us craft which stories we should tell. And we had a panel of scholars who fact-checked every single fact and detail in the project. And I know for my essay alone, I read 12 books and relied very heavily on academics and their scholarship. So what's important is we knew clearly that when you're going to do a radical reframing like this, when you're going to argue that black people are the true founding fathers, that black people actually are the only ones who truly believed in the words of the Constitution and the Declaration, that we are the perfecters of this democracy, that the people who have been treated as a problem from the moment we landed on these shores, that we are in fact the solution, you better come right with your facts. So we understood that people were going to be looking for any small error to try to tear apart the arguments that we were making. So we were very, very careful with the facts and very, very careful with the scholarship. So I don't really care if you disagree with the framing. I expected a lot of people, particularly conservative white people, to disagree with the framing, but they can't argue the facts, and that's really all that matters to me.
It was absolutely fascinating being able to pick her brain and understand just how much thought, energy, tears, and fact-checking went into this critically successful project. Hannah Jones says her project was, quote, the most patriotic thing she's ever done. Back to you.
Thanks, Khary. For those who didn't get to attend the sold-out event, it was obvious to tell this was truly a passion project. For Nicole Hannah Jones. Scholars, students, and members of the general public came out to take part in the candid conversation, moderated by Professor Yannick Rice-Lamb and sponsored by the Department of Media, Journalism, and Film. I went to check out the event and get the reaction from Howard students.
Nicole Hannah Jones arrived back at Howard University for a Reframing Our History discussion about her 1619 project. Based on the reactions, her piece was well received and respected by students on campus.
The darkness of slavery is something that's likes to be pushed under the rug by our media, by our education system, by our governmental system, by our economic systems, and to be able to see someone else get to the platform to tell those stories is something that I aspire to do as an up-and-coming journalist.
In order to understand the brutality of American capitalism, you have to start on the plantation. One of the many quotes inside of the project 1619 that documented the enslavement of Africans in the United States. Nicole Hannah Jones took it upon herself to use her talents and her gifts to expose the truth about Black history.
Tia Humphreys describes how this project will inspire generations to come.
I feel like as we move, as generations continue to grow up and we just have get more and more removed from slavery and things like civil rights, I feel like projects like this serve as that reminder. So no future generations might not experience the extent of slavery, the extent of civil rights, but they have to understand and know that this is where their people came from, this is where our origins are, and why we are the great people that we are.
To realize that what we've been told is not the truth. And we have to continue to filter what we're being told.
If you did not get the chance to obtain a 1619 project hard copy, don't worry. You can still read it online for free at the New York Times and Pulitzer Center's website. It is also now available as an audio series on Apple Podcasts.
Coming up next, we look at issues affecting the Black community. Among those is the critically low Black home ownership rate.
And is there enough access to resources for Black families to treat kids with autism? All that is straight ahead. Honestly, taking the long walk on the yard on graduation day is gonna just be so surreal to me.
Being at Howard University is unmatched. The environment is like no other. If I would have picked a PWI, I wouldn't have developed into the young man I am today.
After taking that walk every day to class, you don't really think about the last time that you'll really be on the yard as a student.
Over the course of the last decade, Black home ownership has taken a turn for the worse and declined, leading to fewer and fewer African Americans owning homes.
And of them is Waldorf, Maryland resident Will Hawley, who lived with his father 2 years ago in D.C. But when his father unfortunately passed away, Will was unable to buy or keep the house.
And the house was in Southwest D.C., and it was in a state of disrepair. But in order for me to keep the house, the bank needed so much amount of money.
Will's circumstance represents an even larger issue in the Black community. The U.S. Census Bureau released data that showed that the Black home ownership rate reached just 40.6%.
Is the access to mortgage credit. It's often too restrictive. It's often very difficult for African Americans to make a down payment, so we need more down payment assistance.
For anyone looking for the next steps in owning their own home, you can visit prosperitynow.org.
Autism affects all races, but on the community that has a harder time progressing with the development disorder is the Black community. Black working mothers sometimes struggle to feed and clothe their children, but also may have to find the will to help their child with autism with limited resources.
The thing that surprised me the most was the lack of immediate resources that I had. I did not understand why there wasn't communities already made, which that I might be spoiled as a millennial, but where was the research? Where was this is where you should walk through.
In truth and service isn't just a motto, it's a lifestyle. So much so that Howard University traditionally kicks off their homecoming season with the annual Day of Service.
During Day of Service, there are many areas of the community that volunteers can choose to help out in. This year, one of the service projects were based at Food and Friends, which helped to provide meals for families in need. NewsVision reporter Khary Armster had the opportunity to lend a helping hand.
Howard University's Day of Service marks the beginning of their homecoming week. On this day, hundreds of Howard students volunteer for community service activities across the city. One site that some students volunteered at is Food and Friends.
Food is medicine. We provide food to people who are sick, a wide range of things, HIV/AIDS, diabetes, cancer, heart problems. We hope to provide meals to help them get better.
Students at Food and Friends assisted by packaging meal bags with prepared food. They also helped label and sort meals to distribute to their clients.
Now this is one part of the process where they pair these items as breakfast, lunch, and dinner, paired with their entrees and delivered directly to their clients. The service opportunity gave students a chance to be involved and make sure that groups of people will receive a meal in the near future.
I'm having a lot of fun today at Food and Friends. It's a food bank, and I volunteered at a food bank before in my home state. So volunteering in DC has been a similar experience, but a really fun one.
Being able to serve and give back will stick with students as they look forward to the rest of their 2019 homecoming week.
Mainly, I don't want to be wasteful during homecoming. I hope everybody realizes that the food we get, some people don't have the same opportunity, so everybody's just enjoying of what they have.
For Howard University NewsVision, I'm Khary Armster.
Stay updated with all of Howard University community activities at www.howard.edu. You know, Kaprielle, what's something else Howard University students love to do?
Piggyback off of each other in class.
No, keep it real.
That is true. It's been all over the news. We know you've seen it. We know you have an opinion. So which one is it?
Popeyes or Chick-fil-A? Howard University students chime in on the chicken sandwich battle that has been taking the nation by storm.
You had the opportunity to taste both.
Yes.
And what do you think?
To be honest, the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich is definitely better, but they're a little racist, so kind of got to go for Popeyes to support my black people, you know? So.
Popeyes is definitely better than Chick-fil-A. Popeyes is a lot greasier, which normally I know people are on a health craze, but it really don't matter. Look, it's fried chicken. So basically, and it's bigger. And the bun tastes like it got honey in it. Chick-fil-A would never.
I personally feel like that's just not something I really have to spend my money towards. Like something like I don't necessarily need to go spend my money for some fried, greasy food that's gonna cut my life short. Like it's good, like I'll be alright.
We already know you know, but you're tuned into the RealHu, where we give you a rundown on all the latest entertainment news. Joining us this segment is our NewsVision reporter, Khary Armster.
Oh, thank you very much for having me again.
We're glad to have you, of course. Now, we know keeping up with the most talked about issues in pop culture can be really time consuming. It can also be really hard to filter out what's important and what's not.
Want to know what's tea?
Well, we're going to cut to the chase and tell you what has recently gotten social media's Twitter fingers all worked up. We're about to get RealHu with you.
Famous hip-hop rapper and host of Netflix's Rhythm and Flow, T.I., admitted in a podcast that he joins his 18-year-old daughter on gynecologist visits to ensure that she is still a virgin, even going as far to state that he even says to the doctor, "Give me my results." Social media weighed in on what they thought about this peculiar situation. T.I. recently chose to clear the air surrounding his controversial comments on actress Jada Pinkett Smith's show, The Red Table Talk.
As we all know, the Oscar nominations list is highly anticipated in the entertainment world. A Nigerian film, Lionheart, was expected to be a nominee for the foreign film category. However, the Academy declined the nomination after giving reason that the film was mainly in English. Famous director and producer Ava DuVernay took to social media to express her disdain and concerns on the issue. Social media argued that it was ignorant of the Academy to provide that reasoning when the official language of Nigeria is English.
President Trump is not only in political news, but entertainment as well. He recently expressed that he missed his reality TV show lifestyle and wants to do something more after his presidency. Mark Burnett, creator of The Apprentice, admits that he and the president have recently been discussing the possible creation of a new show called The Apprentice White House.
Wow, that's crazy. But it's been all over social media and timelines, but that's why we're here, to make sure you're not out of the loop. You can always count on us to get RealHu with you. And as you can see, capstone students work hard to bring you the best content and the truth about what's going on in your neighborhood, your community, and the world. We thank you for joining us for our final broadcast of the semester.
We would like to give a special thank you to our professor, Professor Thomas, for being our biggest supporter and working tirelessly to give us the necessary tools to produce this newscast.
We would like to also thank the Department of Media, Journalism, and Film and the entire Kathy Hughes School of Communications for grooming us for this moment.
And lastly, to our Fantastic Four capstone class who served multiple roles simultaneously to produce this newscast. Thank you for watching. We are NewsVision.